Welcome back to another episode of Life in the Stands podcast. I believe this is episode 12 now. I believe this is episode 12 with Jake and Zach here today. We're going to talk about winners and losers of the NBA draft and with that NBA free agency. We're also going to get into NFL OTAs a little bit and some surprises from the Major League Baseball since we are about halfway through the MLB season at this point. But first, we want to start off just by briefly acknowledging that the Nuggets did win the NBA Finals. So this is our first recording after the finals is over. And I believe, the Nuggets did win. I think they won a lot quicker than anyone anticipated. Ben, do you want to give some congrats to the Nuggets as well?
Um, Not preferably. I kind of feel bad. I feel bad for Jimmy Butler. Things just kind of sailed off for them. Didn't have enough juice after a great run. But I mean, I feel like I have more respect for Joker now, and I've always liked Jamal Murray, so like I'll give them their respect. I just wanted the Heat to win, and I was wrong about my prediction as well, so that doesn't go well for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little happier about it because I did pick the Nuggets, but yeah, I felt like I gained a little bit of respect for Jokic. I've always liked Jamal Murray. It just did feel like Jimmy's year, which is a little disappointing, I think, for everyone. You feel like even Nuggets players are a little disappointed for Jimmy, just because
Yeah.
everyone kind of understands and knows. But yeah, the Nuggets are NBA champions, so congrats to them. But moving on from that, let's jump right into the next sort of big NBA event for the year, which was the draft. And we might as well just throw Wembanyama out right away and say he was the first overall pick, and that was great, and that's what everyone expected. And go Spurs!
Yeah, whatever.
They picked another center. Congrats. Okay, whatever. Well, who are the other winners and losers of the NBA draft for you, Bender?
Yeah, so I think most people would say that Victor would be the main guy you're looking at. The Spurs would be the winner of the draft. I personally don't think so. Um, it's not that I don't believe in Victor. I think he'll be good. I just think he'll get bullied on the defensive end. So we'll just have to see how he plays D against guys like Joker and Embiid and all them. Um, so that's a patiently waiting game. I still think Chet might have a chance in OKC to be better than him. So it's another wait and see. He'll also be in that rookie class since he didn't play last year. Like he'll be eligible for the rookie of the year to compete for. But I think the winner is Portland. I'm a big fan of Scoot Henderson, and I don't think it's just because of his talent. I think that the Blazers are the winners of this draft primarily because if they decide to trade Dame, then you still have something to fall back on and build on. But I do think it would still be a good fit with Dame. Doesn't mean you're a championship team. You have to kind of see how they build around. But I guess that's what Dame is waiting for as well to see how they build around those two. Um, and then that's self-explanatory. But I think this one might shock you just because one of these guys is a Michigan guy. So I think the losers of this draft is the Orlando Magic. I believe they had the sixth and the 11th pick, something like that, and got Anthony
Yeah.
Black and Jet Howard. I think both of those picks were reaches. Anthony Black maybe like okay, good defensive player, very wiry, can shoot a little bit. They were looking for shooting. Now I don't think Jet Howard's the answer for that. Obviously, with his dad being in the NBA, there's potential, but I just don't think he's that guy, to be honest. Like I think Kobe Buffkin is better than him, and Kobe Buffkin got taken by the Hawks like 5 picks later, right? Like something like that. But I think Jet Howard is overrated. I don't even think he should be in the first round. Um, and got picked number 11. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I just don't like how they reach for both of those guys. I think I understand the Anthony Black pick over Jet, but that's how I
And
feel.
Jet was the Michigan guy.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, and if anyone would know about Michigan players and where they should probably fall, you're saying that Michigan guys should probably fall later in the draft. That says a lot coming from a Michigan fan and someone who obviously watches Michigan games a lot. I'm not too familiar with the NBA draft this year, so I'm gonna kind of just agree with what you're saying there, especially because they'll again call on your Michigan expertise. If you watched him play all year and said they probably reached for him, yeah, I could see why they're a big loser. I think the loser that I'm gonna call out is the Charlotte Hornets. Taking Brandon Miller number 2 overall, I think he is a good talent, but that's an organization that doesn't have any room for players coming in who aren't buttoned up and ready to go. And it's hard to say that Brandon Miller is buttoned up and ready to go after he had the little bit of controversy before the March Madness tournament, and then did whatever he did in March Madness, I mean, I don't trust that he's going to blossom into a great NBA player that's going to go into opposing arenas every night and play well consistently and turn into a franchise guy. And you just took him at number two. I watched this video of the Hornets mascot like looking upset after they took Brandon Miller number two overall. So again, like I understand the talent is there, but you just got done selling the team from Michael Jordan. You have this new ownership group coming in. It's entirely unstable, and you select the most unstable player in the draft. I don't understand the chemistry fit, understand the talent. I don't think when it comes to people being able to work with people, I think the Hornets are the biggest loser just because I don't see how it doesn't turn into a dumpster fire in Charlotte.
See,
So
I think people were upset about the Brandon Miller pick just because there was momentum for them to pick Scoot instead before the draft, and it didn't happen. It
yeah,
just kind of fell the way it was supposed to the whole time.
yeah,
But I will say, to me, it's a big deal in real life, the situation that Brandon Miller was involved in. But in regards to the NBA and like the pro sport life, that doesn't really mean as much as soon as you get there.
yeah.
So I wouldn't worry about all the drama that he went through and all that kind of thing. If you want to bring anything up, I think it would be his performance in the tournament, where he didn't really shine as much as he did in the regular season.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think in some ways there's less drama and less outside noise once you get to the league because you're getting paid and there's less to worry about. But I think in other ways it creates more pressure and more drama. We've seen that a little bit with John Morant. It's turned him into a gangster instead of like the opposite direction. So I think there can be pressures in other ways. We've already seen him not handle it well. I don't think um when you're drafting as high as number two overall in any professional sports league, I think you have to draft just as much the character and who the young person is that you're asking to come join your organization as you are about the talent of that person. Because if you're going to expect them to be there for the next decade and be a cornerstone of your franchise, they're going to set the culture. They're going to be a part of who everyone is in that building. So I think again, you're drafting that high, you got to look at all of that. I'm not sure it works in Charlotte with all that going on. But anyway, my winner for the night, I'm actually going to go to the Rockets. I'm going to pick the Rockets because they picked fourth and 20th. I think Cam Whitmore is a guy that fell to them for the most part when could have been mocked a lot higher. And even like all those like kind of late teen picks, I wouldn't have been surprised if any of those teams would have taken Cam Whitmore along the way. And I think they were at 20th, I think, is when they got Cam Whitmore. And then they got Amen Thompson at number four. I don't think anyone can complain about that. There's a ton of young talent in Houston now, if there wasn't already. And then Houston, it pains me to talk about it, but they're still in the mix for James Harden. They're still in the mix for some top tier free agents. So I don't want to say it because it still doesn't feel like it makes any sense to me, but it's out there and it's still happening and it's still being talked about. So somebody's hearing it from somewhere and it's got to have some inkling of truth to it. So I think they continue to do a good job of just adding good, young, talented players to their roster. I think at some point they're gonna have to make some tough decisions on all these young guys. So it's gonna be really interesting to look at how their roster shapes up, 2, 3, 4 years from now, especially if James Harden goes and signs a 4-year deal or something. But I'm going to say that they're a winner from the draft night because it just felt like a really solid draft. They did what they were supposed to do and then some.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick for a winner, and I was actually surprised since I was within the Pacers organization. I was surprised that Whitmore didn't go number seven. However, Jarris Walker's also going to be a beast, so I don't mind that pick as well. But for him to fall 13 picks later than what I thought he was going to surprised
Yeah, big
me.
drop, big
So
drop.
that is what it is. So now that we got that out of the way and talked about how bad Jet Howard is as well, um, what NBA free agency move would you like to see? I believe free agency opens up this Friday, so we're creeping up on it. Is there any specific move you'd like to see outside of probably James Harden re-signing the Sixers?
Yeah, yeah, I think I want James Harden to resign. I think I do. But I guess that's still up for debate a little bit. I would like to see Tobias Harris get traded for a box of crumble cookies, but that has yet to be seen too. No, I mean they've said that the asking price for Tobias has been ridiculous, but I think it should be. Yeah, his numbers and his stats don't speak to what he does for a team. Because if you put him on a roster where he's not the fourth offensive option, yeah, it's going to look very different for him. So I would like to see probably some sort of big offseason move from the Sixers, whether that is trading Tobias or doing something else. With other young pieces on the roster, whether it be Jaden Springer or Cork Maz is still floating around up there, Shake Milton, whatever it may be. And that being said, if I was looking at like the rest of free agency, you picked the Blazers as one of your winners in the NBA draft. Think if I had to pick like one thing just for Dame to get out of Portland, like I feel like it's going to handicap both of them if they don't trade Dame at this point. It's going to handicap Scoot and it's going to handicap Dame because neither one of them are really going to have their own show. And there might be some level of like mentorship there that could be useful. But at the end of the day, if you really want Scoot Henderson to become whatever you think he's going to become, he probably just needs to be able to run the show a little bit. And at this point in his career, like Dame probably wants to do a little bit of mentoring, but he wants to win and he doesn't want to play alongside someone who he's going to have to coach through 40, 50 losses in a season, 60 losses in a season to make that happen. He's not doing it. So I
But
just hope they trade Dame and move on and just don't have them play together. I don't think they should play together.
yeah, I don't want to see Dame stay for any longer than he has. It's probably about 3 years overdue. But I
Yeah.
think if they're planning on moving in the direction it looks like with the two of them playing together, I think Dame has shown that he's been able to split touches with somebody when CJ McCollum was there. Um, so I think that wouldn't really be a problem, but I think you need to move Anthony Simons if you're going to keep those two, because Simons is your big trade piece. And they've always been trying to move around Nurkic as well. So I think you can kind of get like a veteran center that's not Nurkic, someone you don't have to pay, um, just somebody cheap, and then re-sign Jeremy Grant. If you can trade Anthony Simons, you could probably get a good wing player to pair with the three guys I just mentioned, and then just fill in the center spot with whoever.
Who do you
So
think
I
that
think
is,
that would
though?
work.
Who do you think that is? And does that actually make them competitive, or is it just pull them into mediocrity again?
See, I couldn't really give you an answer on who I think it would be. Um, the name that I've heard, well, two names that I've heard, um, would be for OG in Toronto, as well as Siakam in Toronto. I think if they get Siakam, they won't re-sign Jeremy Grant, but I think if they re-sign Jeremy Grant, I think OG makes more sense to play the three. Um, and I think that still makes them competitive because I trust Scoot, and I know he's just a rookie, but I think I trust him more than a lot of people. I still think he'll end up being the best player in that draft outside of what we've talked about. Like I think Victor has the highest ceiling, but I think Scoot will actually pan out to the hype. I don't think Victor will. So
Yeah, you are not a Victor fan, which is a whole other conversation that we could have. I mean, I think he's the tall, lanky guy. Obviously, there's injury concerns, there's durability concerns that you have to have when someone's that size. But
he actually measured in at 7 foot 3.5. I saw that today. So he's not 7'5". He's not like all those guys, but I believe like Kristaps is 7'2". So he's not overly as big as people think he is. I think it's just the fact that he has guard skills that makes people a little anxious about him.
yeah,
But that
I
is what it
also
is.
feel like though, like every big guy in the NBA has guard skills. Let's see how he plays in the NBA. It's hard for me to imagine they're gonna have him bring up the ball.
Get a
Like,
versatile defender like Bam Adebayo on him and see what happens.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, put Bam on him, see what happens. I mean, heck, put someone smaller on him
I
that can
think
just get
Draymond
up in
could
his
push
grill.
him.
I think Draymond, if you put Pat Beverly on him, I think it would be annoying. Like Pat
I
Beverly
think
probably gets some steals because as soon as that ball comes back down,
yeah, he's definitely
you
at
know,
a disadvantage because people are gonna steal the ball from his shins,
right.
which would be at eye level for those guys. But
Yeah, it's gonna be
yeah,
interesting, man. It's gonna be really interesting to just to watch how the NBA reacts. And honestly, like I know his injury, there's obviously durability concerns because of his weight, his height, all that stuff. Hopefully he stays healthy because I feel like the last couple of like generational prospects we've seen come through haven't stayed healthy and haven't been on the court to really show us. Like Zion has just stayed off the court.
yeah.
Ben Simmons is now really like no longer on the court. Like I hope he stays healthy.
Yeah, Anthony Bennett's a phenom as well. But
Where's
no,
Andrew Bynum?
yeah, that contract we gave him a long time ago still pisses me off to this day. But it started the process, and here we are, giving us a chance. But here's something I think will surprise you a little bit, and I don't know how much you keep up with this kind of stuff, but I believe on Get Up either yesterday or 2 days ago, Brian Windhorst said something about the Cavs have something brewing, like there's something brewing
I saw
over in
this. Yeah.
Cleveland. Okay. So then I saw something yesterday that said, don't be surprised if Paul George goes to the Cavs. And then I saw something today that said Darius Garland is on the market potentially. Like they're listening to offers. So the Clippers are always looking for a point guard, correct?
Hmm.
And I heard the Paul George thing a couple days ago. I think it would just make sense for them to trade, let's say, Darius Garland and Okoro for Paul George. Obviously, you have money and picks and whatever else you want to
Yeah.
exchange in that, but that would be
Hmm.
like the main pieces in that trade, which I
Yeah.
think would be kind of interesting. You would have Donovan Mitchell, Paul George, Mobley, and Allen, and then you'd have to find probably a veteran point guard, and they have somebody kind of hidden on their bench who actually I think helped develop Darius Garland as a playmaker, Ricky Rubio. So if he decides to give anything left, whatever's in his tank left, I think that team could be good. Um, you got two good
Interesting.
wing players, two rim protectors, and mobile big guys. So I think it would make the Cavs look a little interesting, a little different.
What do you think you would do the Clippers? Because you're then sending Darius Garland into a situation with Russell Westbrook already there. And I saw some reports that said Russell Westbrook
Westbrook is
is
not there yet.
I saw some things that said he was planning on re-signing with the Clippers. And that was the top option right now. So that'd be very interesting. I don't think that'd be the case if Paul George was out the door because Paul George was kind of the one that brought him in to begin with.
Yeah, so I think if Russ signs, then that trade won't go through. If something doesn't go through right away, that leaves more time for that call to be made.
Yep.
So I think it's again another waiting game. We're waiting for Friday for this to open up, obviously.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
just
There's going to be
gonna,
some pieces that fall early and
yeah, we're kind of
go
just
from
sitting
there.
here waiting and seeing how things go at this point.
Yep. All interesting though. All very interesting. All right. Well, with that, Bender, do you want to hop into a little bit of some NFL OTAs conversation? I'm sure there's already been, some headlines that have come out of the official training activities with the NFL so far. Mini camps and mandatory mini camps. I believe those dates just got announced today, so those are coming up as well. We're coming up on the NFL season in general. It's kind of right around the corner. It's going to be here before we know it at the end of summer. Bender, do you have any headlines coming out of OTAs that you want to talk about specifically? Any rookies, any specific players or teams that you're seeing a lot of news about?
Yeah, so I think there's an obvious one. Obviously, you're going to talk about quarterbacks coming out of the new year and new draft and all that. I believe Anthony Richardson is being overlooked now because obviously he kind of had a bad showing at one point, and now people just kind of crap on him and like, yeah, he's not going to turn out good, whatever. But apparently, him and Gardner Minshew have been competing in practice, splitting reps with first team. But Anthony Richardson, with that competition, has shown high level abilities in their words. So I think that's something to look forward to. It's another Lamar Jackson like developmental thing. People aren't going to believe in you right away as a running quarterback either.
Yep. Yep.
I think
Takes time.
Jonathan Taylor being there kind of takes pressure off. Michael Pittman's no joke. So I think the way they're going to be able to scheme with him is going to kind of turn them into a Baltimore Ravens type team, I think, because they have a lockdown defense. They've had that the last couple of years. It's really been about their quarterback play because you rotated through old head quarterbacks between Philip Rivers, who was the most successful one of the three, and then Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz. So you rotated through those guys. It didn't work out, even with the good defense. I think going the development side of things and getting a new quarterback, rookie quarterback, I think will look good for them. And I
Yeah.
think just the situation he's in for any quarterback looks good. So I think he'll have a great year.
Yeah. They probably end up with more wins this year than they did any of those 3 years with those old head quarterbacks. That's my guess. I bet they win more games this year. Yeah.
I wouldn't put past them, but they do play in a very interesting division, I want to say,
Yeah.
just because the Jaguars are kind of floating in there, but we'll see.
Yeah. And I do like Trevor Lawrence, continuing to develop. I think Doug Peterson has been really good for Trevor Lawrence. So the division will continue to get, a little more competitive, I think, as the years go on and those quarterbacks develop. I just think the ceiling of Anthony Richardson, obviously he's going to be rookie QB, and it's him being a running QB, there could be some injuries, there could be some turnover issues. They're going to lose some games, but kind of because of him, most likely. But I think they're also probably going to win some games because of just his sheer talent sometimes.
It'll be a learning
Almost,
experience in the process.
yeah. I mean, a little Justin Fields-esque, probably. But with a way better team around him, obviously, because the defense is already there and you got a super solid
Yeah,
running game with the offensive line of Jonathan Taylor.
yeah. Real quick comment about the Jaguars. They've continued to build around him, either signing or trading or even drafting as of late. So I
Hmm.
think as they keep doing that for him, you've seen the progress.
Yeah.
Better talent around you makes you better. It's kind of what I just mentioned with Anthony
Yep.
Richardson a little bit. So
Yep.
um, they also get Calvin Ridley back. I don't know if you kind of thought about that one, but
Yeah.
he's no joke
Yeah.
either. And I believe they still have Christian Kirk and all those guys chilling. So
Yeah.
I think they'll be good
And
this year.
yep. And did you see Calvin Ridley's players edition like writing piece that got posted too? Like he was talking about like yeah, the suspension, everything that happened. Like I think Calvin Ridley's gonna come back and have like 1,000 yard season this year.
Yeah, he'll go
Because
nuts.
like he's finally right, I think. Like he's had time, like his body's good, he feels good. He's kind of like aired his grievances. I feel like whenever someone does that, they come back out and if as long as he stays in the field this year, I think he's going to be a menace, especially with everything else that's going on there in Jacksonville. You're a huge fan of Evan Ingram. You mentioned Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne's obviously great. Um, so yeah, I think they're in great shape there in Jacksonville. Yeah, as far as other OTA things that I've kind of seen and paid attention to, obviously being a Steelers fan, I've paid a lot of attention to Corey Trice Jr. playing cornerback. I think it's been really interesting to kind of see him develop throughout OTAs. He's taken on a lot of responsibility, actually, with even like first team reps during OTAs, which has been fun to watch. One of the things that I loved, I saw him do too, and a bunch of Steelers players came out and talked about after practice. To end practice, most NFL teams do some version of like a 2 minute drill or some sort of like end of game scenario to kind of end practice and put the offense against the defense and you have a little like live game scenario. And when the Steelers were doing the 2 minute drill to end practice, Corey Trice picked the ball off against the first team offense to kind of end the drill. But then after he had picked the ball off, the offense was kind of complaining that it was pass interference. They wanted to reset the play. So they called it back. They took away his interception. On the next play, he picked the ball off again in a different scenario, much cleaner, without any chance of a pass interference call being made. So, I think it kind of shows right away the resilience needed in an NFL corner. And he had the prototypical size coming out. He's like 6'3", he's over 200 pounds. I think he's got close to 210. So I'm really excited about what Corey Trice can be. He just had a lot of injury concerns, a lot of durability concerns coming out of Purdue, but his tape all looks great. The physicals are all there. It looks like he's showing it a little bit actually in OTAs, which is awesome to see.
Yeah. I think the competitiveness in that camp is a good thing for him as well.
Yeah, yeah, being with Patrick Peterson there, who's obviously trying to prove himself in a new system. The couple of corners that they kept around, like Levi Wallace and and Arthur Mollett, trying to just like get a roster spot, and then Joey Porter Jr., which obviously, if you're going to talk about a rookie corner on the Steelers right now, you're probably going to talk about Joey Porter Jr. first. So the fact that he's consistently made a name for himself and been a topic of discussion is impressive for Corey Trice.
Yeah, I agree. And it's kind of scary to look at because I don't like the Steelers. So
Yeah, the defense looks very different going into this upcoming season. I mean, we have depth on the defensive line. We're a scary defensive line, bringing in Armand Watts, re-signing Ogunjobi, bringing in Marcus Golden, and then the couple of rookies that we brought in. DeMarvin Leal is still there, rookie from last year. I forgot about. Brought in Nick Herbig, still T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, and then bringing in the linebackers that we brought in, thumpers in Holcomb and Landon Roberts, with keeping Casey and bringing Keanu Neal as well. Like the defense has been completely reshaped in Pittsburgh in a lot of good ways. I think I'm very excited for this upcoming NFL season.
I don't know if I like your quarterback situation still, but you believe in him more than I do. So um,
Yeah. Hey, when you lead a couple of game-winning drives in your rookie season, I've seen all I've needed to see. Because that's how, even with Ben Roethlisberger, who is probably a top 10 quarterback all time, probably hard to debate that he's not a top 10 quarterback all time. Couple of Super Bowls, Super Bowl MVP, like top five in passing yards, touchdowns. Like, okay, so he's a top 10 quarterback all time. Even with him, in the height of us having like the best defenses, some of the best defenses in history, we won games by single digits on game winning drives in the last moment in ugly ways. So it's just the way it happens. So, like, he led a couple of game winning drives. He gets the drill. We're all good over here.
Sure, if you think so.
Moving
That's what we'll
on.
go with. That's what we'll go with. Yeah, so we haven't really hit on any MLB topics in a long time since we talked about the pitch count at the beginning of the year. It's
I'm gonna
about the
miss him,
halfway
Kyle.
point.
Kyle.
Yeah, I know. Kyle's ditching us right now. Got a girlfriend, and that's what happens. So um, we're going to talk about what player or team or both that we've been surprised with or that we see has a bright future. Um, I'll talk about mine first. I feel like it's the obvious one. Otani and the Angels, just for his ability to be able to pitch and hit homers and hit the ball in general. Um, I think that kind of puts them on the map every year, especially added on top of Mike Trout, who's probably been arguably one of the best players in baseball for a long time now. I think the knock on them is always the Angels don't really do anything with it. But I think this year may be the year. Um, I think maybe not reach a World Series, but I think they'll actually get into the playoffs and make some noise. Um, and I think that'll be on the back of Otani and Trout. And I believe Otani the other night had a game where he had 10 strikeouts and a multi home run game together. Like you don't hear of that. Like nobody pitches and hits anymore at the same time. So just to see that he even tries that, but is successful with it, and he's still like the best at both, or one of the best at both, is kind of nutty.
Yeah, man, it's like me at my rec softball games, batting like,
Oh yeah,
two
I'm
for
sure.
me. No, I'm just kidding. I only throw like 7 or 8 strikeouts at my rec softball games, but
Yeah, something
um,
slight.
some some slight. No, I don't even pitch. Yeah, no, I don't know too much about baseball, but obviously, Otani is a name that comes up a lot, and the Angels are a team that comes up a lot because he probably is, probably over the best player in baseball. A lot of people would say that he's the best player in baseball, or one of the best players, and you pair him with Mike Trout, who again is one of the best players in baseball over the last decade or something. I remember when he signed that like 10-year contract, and I didn't know that 10-year contracts could be signed in professional sports. That was the
Yeah,
first time I was like, what the MLB is the Wild
it's an
West. That's
MLB
crazy.
thing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that that can happen. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully the Angels can do something with that. Again, with not knowing much about baseball, I'll say my biggest surprise is the Cincinnati Reds. And I'll say it's the biggest surprise just because I know mostly nothing good comes out of Cincinnati in general in any professional sport.
That's
And
a
so
low blow. That's such a low blow.
so I feel like, the Cincinnati Reds doing well. And then they have this rookie, Ellie De La Cruz, who apparently runs like lightning. I saw this like thing of him riding the bases, and it said that he had the fastest sprint speed in the MLB this season, like over 30 feet per second or something like that. To be rounding the bases at that speed is is insane. To be able to have that kind of body control and acceleration and everything. So hopefully they can also get in, kind of make some noise this year. It doesn't seem like they're a team that, really consistently has a ton going on. So, it seems like they have a little bit of a steal in whatever rookie they got this year, and hopefully he continues to be really exciting for their fans, and maybe they can fill some stadium seats in Cincinnati for once.
Yeah, I feel like there's a theme to this episode as well, which is the development of certain players and teams being young and that kind of thing. So I think maybe not in Otani's case, he's kind of been around for a few years now, but I think um, with Cruz, I think he's kind of like lightning in a bottle. Like he will bring the excitement to their team, which is what you need for the fans. And then obviously the fans can get your players going. You
Yeah.
see it in Philly more than anything, just because the Philly fan base goes crazy, no matter what sport it is. But and obviously we're going to reference that being in, well, me being in PA, you took off to Utah. So, but
Yeah, Utah
yeah,
fans are not as crazy. Although there is a lot of talk about Utah adding a professional MLB team. Um,
really
through my work, I'm actually privileged to some insider information about that MLB team, and there are a couple of wealthy families in Utah that are looking
nice.
to bring an MLB franchise to the Jordan area of Utah, and they would have a baseball stadium, sort of like West Valley area, Jordan area, and the baseball stadium would be looking into the mountains. So as you'd be batting, you'd be swinging into the mountains, and some of the renderings look really awesome. I think, honestly, like a baseball stadium in Utah would be insanely pretty. So it'd be
Yeah,
interesting to see if we could bring a professional baseball team out to Utah.
yeah, for sure. And I do have two random thoughts for you. First of all, I think that might be the most excitement out of Utah since the Gobert coughing on mics for COVID. Um, however,
Speaking of Gobert, just because you mentioned his name, then you can say the second thing. I had word this weekend that his birthday party was in Utah. Rudy Gobert's birthday party was in Utah this past weekend and not in Minnesota.
I mean, Towns
I'll
wants
just,
him out.
I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm not going to say anything else. I'll just say his birthday party
Yeah,
was here in Utah.
Towns wants him out. So we'll see if that happens. I doubt it
Very
because of how much they
interesting.
gave up for him.
Very
But
interesting.
I like Nas Reed so much better. But we can get into that at a different time.
And
But
he's
I do have a
cheaper. He's so much cheaper.
so much cheaper. Rudy Gobert is a 7 foot tall Walmart worker. But yeah, so I do have a question. Backtrack to MLB real quick. Do you think that the MLB season's way too long? Um, I feel
Yes.
like that's a common theme. I just something to
Yes.
get into next time. I just wanted a very general answer real quick.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say yes. And to extend my general answer into more specific answer, because I know it's what you were looking for. I think if you think about the NBA season, people complain about the NBA season being too long and the playoffs are the only thing that matters. We saw an 8 seed reach the NBA finals this year after
Yeah,
losing the first game of the play-in. I think if people are complaining about that length of a season, I
yeah,
mean,
but I
baseball is
think the play-ins.
162 games, 162, right?
Yeah, I think the play-in is necessary
I think the play-in is
for the NBA.
necessary. Yeah, I do love the play-in tournament for the NBA because I think that just expands the number of teams that care at the end of the season. So I think that's the right thing
I
to
th
do.
I think they
Baseball
should
needs to
maybe
find
consider
something.
they should consider something similar to that, whether it's like a one game series or one game like do or
Yeah,
die.
yeah,
I think maybe just adding like two teams maybe at the end of like each conference just to see what would happen.
yeah.
You get more fans involved in the playoffs with that as well, especially
Right,
if you see a play-in team in baseball go far. I feel like
right.
that kind of it's more excitement, something like another storyline to look at, like underdog
Yeah,
storyline. So
yeah. And I feel like you don't need 162 games to decide seeding. Like how often does seeding change in the last 10 games of that season?
that's like 10 games, maybe not, but that like probably like game 80 to 120, 130 is really important. Um, so I
Because
don't know
that's
what you
like
would
the
shorten it
yeah.
to.
I mean, even if you shorten it to like 140, you take 20 games off the top, but then you start with two extra team playing, and each of those series is 3 games instead of one, and you have like a mini
Yeah,
playing series. Like, but I mean something because I mean baseball also plays more often. There's more like 3 days rest, 4 days rest in between during the NBA season versus the MLB season. I feel like MLB teams play like a ton. Um, and they have series where they'll play like tons of back to backs and that kind of stuff too. So it's different. It's all different, but anytime I feel like you can talk about shortening the season, it's a good idea just because it increases players' longevity. Um,
yeah. I think there has been progress
yeah,
though in regards to like the extra inning rule where they start somebody on second base just to end games earlier. So you're not
yeah,
playing potentially, let's say like 12, 14, 16 innings,
yeah. That's good.
like two games in one. So I think they're kind of
Yeah,
figuring some things out.
yeah.
Um, but I just
Even the
don't know.
pitch clock. You know, because I think the pitch clock adds a certain element of like just pick what you're doing and go, and makes the game quicker as well.
Yeah, I think it
Um,
might involve more endurance from the pitchers and more of like a quicker thought process, but I think it also
yeah,
keeps the fielders and batters like off their feet, no matter how dumb that sounds, because they're professional athletes, but like off their feet a little bit more,
yeah.
um, because of more downtime. So
Right, right. Yeah, it's all interesting. It does feel like baseball is like changing. like in
And
pretty
I
big
think it's
ways.
for
Like,
good though,
yeah,
because
no,
even
like in all good ways.
what you were talking about previous episode or two, we're talking about like you never got into baseball because you always thought it was boring. The pitch clock came
Mhm.
along, it gives an element. Like if they can continue to give elements, whether it's taking it from the NBA, like a play-in, like I feel like you can get
Mhm.
more fans involved.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And it feels like every professional sports league right now does need more fans and more viewership. Um, you know, more TV deals, more all of that kinds of stuff. So anything that they can do to just stay competitive in the landscape of people's attention to sports,
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it does feel like they're doing a lot of things that are trending in the right direction for both people that are baseball fans already and people that are just getting into the sport. So
yeah, for sure. And this will wrap up our next episode. Just stay tuned. Got NBA free agency going on. Keep involved with the NFL. See where guys like Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette and all them end up as well. And then MLB season creeping up on the All-Star game halfway through. So I guess we'll see who makes it, who doesn't. See who the snubs are, and we'll see you next time.